Hey there, this is Dana Arcuri, author, speaker, survivor, and advocate, and today's topic is something that is a major hallmark moment for me. And so this video is called Surviving a Cymbalta Nightmare, and it will be official on November 2nd that I will be celebrating my 10-year anniversary free from Cymbalta, also known as duloxetine. It is a medicine that is prescribed for a wide variety of reasons. For me, it was prescribed because I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia and herniated discs and other medical conditions. And the timeline for the back problems and all the bulging discs and herniated discs began in 2006 and spiraled out of control, in which in 2008, I went to a rheumatologist and he said, yes, you most certainly do have back problems, but your biggest problem is primary fibromyalgia. And so that was March 2008. And in December 2008, I decided to get a second opinion. It was really important for me to make sure that this really was an accurate diagnosis. And so I had another specialist who was a lot more thorough. I give him a lot of credit because he did do over 33 different blood work for various wide range of conditions like rheumatoid arthritis, thyroid problem, and other autoimmune conditions. There were a lot of medical conditions that he wanted to either rule in or rule out. So at the end of December 2008, my specialist said that everything was ruled out. So nothing showed up at all on the blood work. But keep in mind, he didn't do as thorough of blood work as now I'm discovering. So after 10 years, I'm learning so much more. I've gained so much insight. And so today's medical disclaimer is going to be that I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist, a psychiatrist. I am not a medical professional. This video is only for giving my personal story, sharing my own experience and the knowledge that I have gained and everything I have learned in the past decade. So in a decade, I have grown so much wiser, so much healthier. For anyone who's taking Cymbalta right now or thinking of taking this prescription, understand that everyone responds differently to medication. Each of us are very, very unique individuals with very unique, a body system, metabolism, sensitivities, and various differences in who we are and everything to do with us and how we respond to prescription medications. This is something that a lot of my followers already know my story. So many of you have been following me for 9.5 years. You already know that I've gone through hell and back over a wide variety of medicine, in which Cymbalta was the first. Really, really brutal experience. It was a nightmare of hell. I reached rock bottom. And so there are also some of my viewers who are not aware of my story. You know more about me through the past 2 years and the things I'm sharing over the past few years. And so you may not even be aware that I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, that I had different medical complications, that I had a near-death experience with Cymbalta and other medications back in 2010 through 2011. And so I wanted to kind of catch you up to speed for those who don't know this story, just a little highlight of what happened, a brief little synopsis of what happened, and then I could share more about this amazing 10-year healing journey of going from barely surviving Cymbalta to tapering Cymbalta to becoming free from Cymbalta, having wicked withdrawals from many different medications and the severe interactions, and then reaching this amazing new fork in the road where I chose to stop all medications gently as best I could. In some situations, doctors abruptly stopped medicine. I was in the hospital. Long story short, very brutal experience. But, this story is something of hope. I don't know if you could see my shirt. People, and see what I'm wearing and see what it says. But the main message is about healing and health and hope and love and kindness and peace. Because after this 10-year experience, this amazing transformation of going from being extremely suicidal to reaching a totally different place in my life where I started really doing the hard work of learning more about Cymbalta and about other medications, about the pros, about the cons, about other people who have had horrific experiences, and many people have died. There's been a lot of significant losses and fatalities involved with this medication. And so I want to just, put the disclaimer out there. No, I'm not a doctor. No, I'm not a psychiatrist. I am an ordinary person with an extraordinary testimony of healing, health, and hope. And so my 10-year anniversary is a very exciting time for me. Woo, woo. And I will be celebrating a decade of being free from Cymbalta, a decade of healing from the wicked withdrawals, a decade of major life changes. And so there is so much that we learn in a decade. There is so much we gain insight on, and then we grow, we evolve, we become smarter, wiser, empowered people. And that's what it's all about. That's what I'm all about. God took my rock bottom and he used it for his highest glory. And we have to know that for every horrible experience we have in life, and trust me, I've been there, I've done that. I know the deepest pit of darkness. I know the holding on to a shred of hope. I know what it's like to have terrible experiences, negative side effects, and absolute anguish, loss, the loss of a job, the loss of being a parent, the loss of being able to be a wife to my husband, the loss of being able to be a productive person in our society, because I was hit hard, bad, nightmare, scary experience with Cymbalta. And so I have learned such valuable lessons, in which that is why I share my stories on my YouTube channel, because I am educating, I am empowering, and I am giving you encouragement that yes, no matter what we're going through, no matter what negative side effects, severe interactions with medicine, despite the black box warning and having suicidal ideations, and despite everything that we may suffer from traditional medications, we have to know that there's another way. There's a gentler way, and I found the way. And today I'm celebrating. I'm celebrating that I am a survivor. I am celebrating 10 years freedom. And I am excited. And I believe that when we have something so empowering and so amazing and awesome that happened to us, and we learn our hard lessons, we've been there, we've done that, we've walked the walk. And so we understand that, yes, there's a time and a place for medicine. Oh, yes, when you have a heart attack, you may need some medicine. You just had surgery, you might need some medicine. You were in a horrific automobile accident, you crushed your ribs, you might need some treatment. So there is a time and a place for medicine. But there's also many gentle, natural, soothing ways that we can improve our health physically, cognitively, and emotionally. And so for anyone who has not heard my story, I don't want to get into this huge story, but I will share a little bit about the Cymbalta journey. And if you'd like to check out my other Cymbalta videos or anything about Ativan or other medications, trust me, there's plenty of videos. I have hundreds and hundreds of videos, and many are to do with medications. Now, keep in mind again, just because I had a very negative reaction, a very horrific, hellish ordeal with Cymbalta, It does not necessarily mean that you will or that your loved one will. So keep an open mind and understand that we are all different. We respond differently, and that this video is just my personal experience and it is not medical advice. So I really don't believe that we should take medical advice on YouTube because it is not a platform for medical advice. But there are so many thousands upon thousands of people who have been in similar situations as me. They have a wide variety of their own videos about their own medications that cause them severe damage, organ damage, brain fog, mental distress. Some of them became suicidal. And so we have to understand that we could learn from other people's experiences, and that it is extremely eye-opening to understand that we are not alone in this. Through the 10 years, the one thing I learned is I'm not alone. And you are not alone. And we are in this together. And that sometimes when we do share our stories, especially those really hard, unspeakable challenges, the anguish we go through, the turmoil we are dealing with, that it can give someone else hope that they can heal too. And that is my biggest message. That is my whole soul mission in life. I believe that when I started going through horrific experiences and negative side effects and interactions with Cymbalta back in 2010, that through my experience, I have learned now that this is a message of hope. This is an educational topic. This is a timely subject that so many people, they're searching for answers. They're desperate to recover. So whether you have an autoimmune condition, whether you have fibromyalgia, herniated discs, or whether you have trauma and you have been dealing with horrendous past abuse and certain things that may have happened to you, we have to understand that there's a lot more to what went on with me than just a diagnosis of fibromyalgia. So I've learned a lot, and this video is going to share what I've learned and how I have now 10 years behind me, 10 years of so much education, so much extensive research, so much amazing transformation to reach the other side of the mountain. So I've made it, people. I've made it. And I hope that you're happy for me. I hope that you are encouraged that even if you are taking this medicine and it's giving you side effects and so forth, please know that there's other solutions. Sometimes you are your answer. You are your answer. When we listen to that still soft voice within us, that little gut intuition that might be softly speaking or it might be screaming loud for your attention, never ignore your gut instinct. Always know intuition doesn't lie. And so let's go on to just a little synopsis, a little bit about the beginning, middle, end of this 10-year journey. So in the beginning, it was a situation in which I had in 2006 been physically, sexually assaulted by my brother-in-law. And I hurt my back on the evening that he violated me and attacked me. I soon was diagnosed with bulging discs. So this was the end of November 2006. And I didn't at first connect the dots, on sexual assault, herniated discs, bulging discs, chronic pain, advanced degenerative disc disease. So there was a lot of things at that time in 2006, I did not yet connect the dots. However, it brought me to a place because I was thinking this is just a physical problem. So I went to a physician and received my first diagnosis, primary fibromyalgia and herniated discs and advanced degenerative disc disease. And then I went for a second opinion. They confirmed. We ruled in fibromyalgia and you still have a back problem and you should be taking Cymbalta. So they said, hey, let's get you started on Cymbalta. And for the first year, I really didn't want to go there, didn't want to do that. But by 2009, I was really struggling, and I didn't realize that trauma was playing a really big role in what was going on with me. At the time, I was not aware of being trauma informed. I didn't even hear anything about trauma for people who are sexual assault or abuse survivors. Back in 2008, 2009, even 2010, heck, if we want to really get to it, I really never heard about trauma informed until around 2017, 2018. And then now in 2020, it's a real hot topic. Suddenly our therapist decided, oh, we better be trauma informed. Well, keep in mind, my therapist was not trauma informed back in 2008, 2009. And for many, many, many years, so nobody asked me when I went for a medical appointment, when I went for a therapy appointment, when I went for counseling, when I was searching and desperate for help, nobody asked some very, very crucial questions. Number one, they never asked, did you experience child neglect or abuse? They never asked, did you experience sexual assault, sexual harassment, any kind of violation to your body? Nobody asked, did you experience narcissistic abuse? Did you experience any kind of bullying, any kind of family dysfunction, any kind of very toxic environment on the home front? So I'm now seeing that there are pieces that were missing from the puzzle, and it took me 10 years to fit each piece of the puzzle to finally look at a completed puzzle. I resolved the mystery, people. I resolved my own mystery. I solved my own mystery. And it took me a decade to really reach a totally different place of understanding. And so back in 2010, I started experiencing very troubling symptoms with Cymbalta. And after 4 short months, I asked my doctor, a neurologist, to please slowly taper me off the medicine. Instead of her agreeing that this medicine was not a good fit for me and I was having very serious, concerning side effects, she dismissed me as her patient. Now, what kind of physician does that? What kind of physician does that? Not a good physician. You don't just leave someone high and dry to wing it on their own and expect them to go cold turkey off of Cymbalta when they've been taking it for a year and a half. So here's another little medical disclaimer, and I want you to research this. Please don't just take my word for it, but do your own research, do your own reading, search through, Google it, check it out, but never, ever, ever cold turkey Cymbalta or any medication. So if your doctor says to you, oh, just stop taking it. That's what my doctor said. Just stop taking it. No big deal. It's a big deal, people. It's a life or death situation. Cold turkeying Cymbalta is deadly. If you look at the black box warning for Cymbalta, understand, what does a black box warning mean? It means there's danger. It means that the FDA has compiled evidence, medical evidence of hundreds and thousands of patients who have either been injured by Cymbalta, they sustained more than one injury. It could be organ damage. It could be brain damage. It could be kidney damage. It could be suicidal ideation, suicidal attempts, and the list goes on and on. Look at my other videos because it really gets into a lot more thorough information, more scientific information about Cymbalta. But please understand that no, we never ever cold turkey Cymbalta. It can actually have very dire consequences. And what can happen is you could become suicidal and you may take your life. And I've met many families who have shared their heart-wrenching story with me of their loved ones who were prescribed Cymbalta for a back problem, for fibromyalgia, for autoimmune conditions, for other medical conditions. And they ended up becoming suicidal and they took their life. And they're gone. And so this is extremely heartbreaking. And so I really want to make it very clear that this is something not to take lightly and that you are your answer. You are your answer. So many of us, we're searching for answers and we're asking questions. Oftentimes deep down, we know our answers. However, when we are prescribed one or more prescriptions, it could actually cause problems with our neurotransmitters, our central nervous system, GABA, which is in the brain to do with sleep and so forth. And we could end up having so much brain fog. And especially if you do have fibromyalgia, you may already have fatigue. You may already have so much mental fuzziness where you can't think clearly. You feel like everything is just fuzzy and you can't think straight and you're battling insomnia. You're struggling with severe muscle aches and pains. And there's other situations that go hand in hand with fibromyalgia and with autoimmune conditions such as depression and anxiety. Because when someone has a chronic illness, such as physical pain, it really takes a toll on the body. And what can happen is when you're dealing with this day after day, week after week, month after month, day after day, and then if you start getting into years and years and years of this chronic illness, this chronic pain, it does take a very harsh toll on our bodies, on our minds, on our cognitive wellness, in which we are not at our best. And this means that we can't advocate for ourselves because we are going through hell and back. And so when I think about 10 years ago, right now, I mean, if we're going to like nail down exactly right now, 10 years ago, I reached the end of my rope. I was already in the midst of a Cymbalta taper. At this point, the original doctor dismissed me. I had gone to my family physician. My family physician said, no, you should not cold turkey Cymbalta. And let's just keep you on 30 milligrams. So we went from 60 milligrams to 30 milligrams. And I was basically at that dosage for several months until I found a new doctor. So I found a new physician in which he said to me, I personally believe that your biggest problem is Cymbalta. He said, I just have a hunch that it is interacting with your other medicine. And so we need your pharmacist to check this out. Go call your pharmacist, have them do a computer check on all your medication, get a printed paper, bring it back to me, and then let's go from there. So I call my pharmacist. I go through with the list of medications that I was prescribed, and she put me on hold, came back on the phone and said, I am confirming, yes, Cymbalta is the problem. You have serotonin syndrome, which means you are taking medicine that is causing you too much serotonin in your body. This can explain why you feel so horrible and why you feel suicidal. So what you should do is taper Cymbalta. And so I was taking various medications at that time, Adderall for the ADHD, Ativan for insomnia, and all the other things that were going on with me, including the fibromyalgia and the back problem. At one point, I was having constant kidney infections, kidney stones, and urinary tract infections. So then I was placed on Cipro. I'm just going to stop for a moment and say something that's really, really important. And again, do your research. Never ever take Cipro with Cymbalta. It is a toxic combination, very lethal. Never mix these drugs. Please do your own research. Number 2, never ever mix benzodiazepines with Cymbalta because that is also a very potent, toxic combination of medicine that has severe interactions. And this is what my pharmacist told me back in October 2010. So I go back to the doctor. I have my paperwork. I tell him this is what my pharmacist gave me. This is what she shared with me. She confirmed, yes, Cymbalta is the problem. And so he said, okay, we're going to slowly taper Cymbalta. Well, you'd think that would be wonderful and everything would be okay and I'd survive and I'd be fine after that, but that's not how things happened. So what happened was he decided to go from, let's see, by then I was on 30 milligrams, and from there he put me on 20 milligrams of Cymbalta. Keep in mind, there's nothing lower than 20 milligrams as far as I'm aware with Cymbalta. 20 milligrams is the lowest it goes. This is a problem for people who are trying to gently taper and wean off their medicine. We can understand that if you're stuck on 20 milligrams, how do you go from 20 milligrams to 0 milligrams? So my doctor said, hey, let's pull apart the capsule. Let's take some beads out. And I was not happy with that because I wasn't well, and I couldn't guarantee that I was going to really be sufficient in taking a certain amount of beads out and doing the math and all of the technical part that he suggested. And while he may have thought that this was doable, for me, it caused more damage than good. And I ended up very suicidal. I ended up going to the emergency room, telling the doctor that I was taking a combination of medicines and that I was suicidal. And the physician in the ER sent me home. He did nothing. A little FYI, people want to talk all about preventing suicide. We cannot prevent suicide when doctors ignore our plea for help. So there was a plea for help. Understand, when someone's suicidal, take it serious. Don't say, oh, you're just joking, or you just want attention, or you're a drama queen. In most cases, someone really is being honest. They're being serious, and we need to validate that this is a cry and a plea for help. And what happened was I wasn't helped. And so by the end of October 2010, I ended up reaching the end of my rope. I hit rock bottom, and I overdosed on a combination of medications, and I survived. I did not die. So yes, I did attempt suicide. It was exactly November 1st, 2010. I woke up on November 2nd, 2010. And I thought, my very first thought upon waking up was, wow, I can't believe I'm alive. And so I thought to myself, you need to advocate for yourself. You need to go to the hospital. You need to find another doctor in another hospital. And you need to really, really try to find some help, because I can't do this by myself, tapering Cymbalta. I am not a doctor. I am not a scientist. I am not a pharmacist. And so I went to another hospital. They had a full house. And what I'm saying, full house, that means that there were no rooms available for me. They were packed with patients. And they said, we want to admit you, and we believe that you do need admitted, but we have no rooms. So we're going to transfer you to another hospital that has a room for you, and you will be admitted into that hospital. So I had to go by ambulance and be admitted into another hospital, in which they immediately stopped. They didn't taper. They did not taper, people. They stopped abruptly Cymbalta. And I want to give a little side note also on informed consent. Informed consent is when a physician will explain the pros and the cons of medication, and they'll be honest and talk about the black box warning. And they will let you know that sometimes you could have side effects, and they could give you the list of side effects, and they could give you even a list of what could happen that's involved with the black box warning, such as becoming suicidal. But I never received informed consent. Not one doctor, not a single physician gave me informed consent. And so I was abruptly stopped from taking Cymbalta. The ironic thing is, a lot of times they'll just replace one drug with another drug. They'll take Cymbalta. Okay, we're going to get rid of that one. We'll terminate Cymbalta. Oh, here, let's give you some Prozac. Do you understand that I already had serotonin syndrome? This means I had too much serotonin in my body because I was taking other medications. So what did they do? They gave me a medication that increased my serotonin and continued this horrific, vicious cycle of hellish symptoms and withdrawal symptoms, and causing me great distress. And so even after I was discharged from the hospital, I was no longer on Cymbalta. And by December 2010, I knew there was still a problem. I knew something was still wrong because I was getting worse. I was not getting better. You know, you'd think, oh, well, maybe because you're off Cymbalta, you're improving. No, I was actually getting worse. So I still felt suicidal. I still felt great anxiety, and I still felt a lot of horrible symptoms, and my fibromyalgia still hurt. So overall, I was doing poorly, and I knew it, and I was aware of it. And when I reached out to my doctor, I found out that he was out of the country for 1 month. You know, what do you do when your doctor's out of the country? Well, most doctors would have a backup plan. My physician did not. So again, there I was, trying to wing it on my own. What did I discover? Well, I discovered, again, when you come to your wit's end and you are trying to help yourself to get healthy and to recover, especially during wicked withdrawals, a lot of times we do need support. And if we're not getting the right kind of support, and if we're not being diagnosed correctly, and if we are getting the wrong medications, and we're getting one drug after another drug, after another drug, after another drug, after another drug, we can understand that the more medications we take, the more possibility there is of having negative side effects and severe interactions, especially when there's a black box warning. Okay, so I'm going to say what I've learned now. Okay, so I lived, we know that, I lived, but now we're going to say what this 10-year anniversary has brought to me, what I have gained, the knowledge and wisdom that 10 years has really helped me understand so much more clearly. And here it is. My root problem was not fibromyalgia. My root problem was not herniated discs or advanced degenerative disc disease. The root problem was actually early childhood neglect and abuse, multiple sexual assaults, narcissistic abuse from my mother, toxic, dysfunctional family, and sibling abuse. And so I was not diagnosed correctly. They didn't ask me these crucial questions that are all about being trauma informed. And so I have come to understand that we manifest later in life physical and emotional symptoms. And there is a link with the body-mind connection. So oftentimes we think, oh, my problem's only physical. No, that is the furthest from the truth. Every single time there is a physical symptom, in many cases, it is greatly connected to emotional distress, different forms of abuse and or trauma, including rape. And so this is something that I was not aware of back in 2006 or 2010. And I did not understand the correlation of early childhood abuse, of sexual assault, of narcissistic abuse, and overall trauma being connected to physical pain. So it's very interesting. Let me share something really important. Got to get my glasses on, people. Hang on. Let me share. I have in my book a resource that I want to share with you. Okay, so here it is. You may want to get pen and paper. Please look up the book, The Body Keeps the Score, and the subtitle is Brain, Mind, and Body and the Healing of Trauma. So again, it's called The Body Keeps the Score by Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. I know it's a really long name, and I could leave the link down below. But look this up. He's on Amazon. He's at other bookstores. Understand that he gets into the whole dynamics of trauma and how later in life we can manifest all of these physical and emotional symptoms. And remember, the fibromyalgia, that is not the root cause of my problem. My back issues, herniated disc, bulging discs, no, that is not the root. The root is trauma and abuse, okay? So this is really crucial we understand this. And what I've come to understand is there is a toll for trauma. And I'm going to walk you through what I experienced. That the one trauma in 2006 when I was sexually assaulted by my sister's husband, there was a ripple effect. And so I want to share this with you because I want you to clearly understand that it's not just a mere little tiny assault. No, this is something that's a violation, and this is something that is very, very traumatic. And what happens is our body keeps cellular memory. Cellular memory is that every single cell in your body remembers what happened. This isn't just about your brain. This goes well beyond the brain. It's called cellular memory, which is also discussed in the book, The Body Keeps the Score. Please educate yourself, especially if you have experienced narcissistic abuse, sibling abuse, sexual assault, sexual harassment, any kind of violation to you, a very severe accident. Perhaps you were harmed by medicine too. Perhaps you were sexually abused, physically assaulted. Maybe you were bullied and it was mental abuse. Understand that they all involve trauma. So let me walk through the toll of my trauma. So it began with sexual assault by my brother-in-law, which led to falling, trying to get away from him, trying to run and escape, and I fell and I injured my back severely. So it begins with sexual assault, which is a crime, which led to herniated discs, which led to advanced degenerative disc disease, which led to chronic pain. Then I had job loss. Then I had a permanent disability and I had to get on Social Security disability. From there, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And from there were so many other medical conditions such as UTIs, such as interstitial cystitis, and also a very severe gluten allergy. Next, I was prescribed Cymbalta, which led to horrible negative side effects, severe interactions, including with other medications, several hospitalizations, wicked withdrawals, which then led to post-acute withdrawal syndrome, which then led to suffering emotional and physical anguish for many, many years going through withdrawal, which then led to finally being diagnosed correctly in June 2019 with complex PTSD, compounded trauma, which then led to family estrangement. Because oftentimes when we speak up about the truth regarding sexual assault, narcissistic abuse, siblings who hurt us, relatives that hurt us, different forms of trauma within the family unit, oftentimes they silence us, they censor us, and the only way for recovery is to break all contact with the people who are abusive and toxic, in which we then go no contact, and we move forward. We rebuild our lives. We look outside the box. We discover that we have a lot more power than we ever gave ourselves credit for. And so I want to share and end on this note. And here it is. This is my 10-year milestone of being free from Cymbalta. This is a really big moment for me. 10 years of healing. That's a long time, and I've learned so much. So we have to understand with this hallmark moment, this decade of reclaiming my health physically and emotionally and spiritually, it's a major achievement. It is a major, major accomplishment. And so 10 years represents a decade of climbing out of a dark pit, of holding on to hope, 10 years of searching for credible answers, doing extensive research and a lot of reading, 10 years of trial and error, searching for gentle, holistic ways to increase my wellness, 10 years of taking responsibility for my life and to recover. 10 years of looking outside the box and coming up with new solutions. Improving my diet, going gluten-free, trying various natural, holistic approach such as pure essential oils, herbal remedies, CBD oil, professional massage therapy, and doing body work, because body work is really, really helpful. Body work, okay, when you're being massaged, and whether it is a professional or it's an amateur, either is good. But understand that any kind of body work, including acupuncture and professional massage, it helps to actually loosen up the restricted muscles, but it's actually helping also to release the trauma from our bodies. Remember, it's cellular. We don't visually see it. Many of us are completely unaware of it, but trauma is the root of the problem. Understand that this is not just something physical. This is something extremely, extremely life-changing. You know, when you go through trauma, when you have complex PTSD, when you have narcissistic abuse, relatives that hurt you, and you've been bullied and you've been beaten down, and then you're taking medicine and you nearly die over it. It's an extremely devastating experience. But in 10 years, I have done the hard work of recovery. So in 10 years, I made positive health improvements. I advocated for myself. I spent 10 years of going from barely surviving to thriving. And so today, I want you to know that there is healing, health, and hope, regardless of what you're going through, whether it was that you have been battling toxic relationships, whether you're dealing with Cymbalta or some other medication that is just not working out for you, and it's causing you great distress and turmoil and so much pain and suffering. Understand that there are gentle solutions. You are able to heal yourself. There is scientific proof that we have this innate ability to heal our own selves. It begins with the power of thinking. It begins with positive thinking. It begins with looking outside the box, and it does not involve any medicine whatsoever. There are so many different forms of healing. It's in my book. So at the very end of my book, in Soul Cry, Releasing and Healing the Wounds of Trauma, I share all the credible resources, all the various wonderful physicians who are totally trauma-informed and on board with natural, effective healing. There's so many different manageable ways to cope with trauma, complex CPTSD, and other various concerns that you may have. So always know that there is hope for healing. And I hope today that you look outside the box, that you raise your voice, that you find your voice, that you know that your gut instincts are so on point, and that you can be your own solution, that you can go from barely surviving to thriving. And it is very possible. God bless and take care.